just one thing more famous than New York City, and that's New York City's skyline. Combine being situated on an island with the fact that we have amassed one of the largest collections of skyscrapers in the entire world, and the view is rather spectacular. And while it has been immortalized in countless movies and photographs, there's more to the view up top than meets the eye.
You know, Tony, my favorite view of New York City is flying into LaGuardia Airport after I've been away for a while. And you take the approach that comes over Brooklyn, right over Prospect Park, and you look out the west side of the plane, and there is the Manhattan skyline. From the Battery all the way up through Midtown, and then you loop around and come in for the landing, and you see all these great icons, these skyscrapers, what make New York City the most wonderful place.
Most New York designophiles know that the Chrysler Building is Art Deco, and it was the first man-made structure to stand taller than 1,000 feet. It was, in fact, the tallest building in the world when it was completed in 1930. The building's massive gargoyles were modeled after hood ornaments, and they are as renowned as its terraced crown. But there's another regal reference on the very top floor.
Do you know that the second highest story in the Chrysler Building, it's a dentist's office, but on the top floor of the Chrysler Building is a crown? And by crown, I mean a throne. And by throne, I mean a toilet. Like there's a bathroom at the very, very top.
The Chrysler's title as tallest was quickly taken the next year when the Empire State Building was completed. At 102 stories, it stood as the world's tallest building for 40 years. If you wind the clock back, it's hard to imagine that in the 18th century, a stream ran through where the building now stands. And in the 19th century, this block was the home of the Waldorf Astoria. Construction began in 1930 and involved 3,400 workers. And less than 16 months later, the ribbon was cut as President Hoover lit the building with the flick of a switch from Washington, D.C. Ironically, the very next year, the lights were illuminated once more to signal Roosevelt's victory over Hoover. But why are there lights on the building in the first place?
There are lights on the building because skyscrapers have been illuminated from the exterior ever since the Great Woolworth Building in 1911. And they started changing colors with the World's Fair of 1936 to give the icon something to really stand out. And now it's covered by every major news network. What color are the lights tonight? They have to make that decision, and sometimes it's a tough one. These two buildings are synonymous with skyscrapers and the New York City skyline. What most people don't know is that the first great uptown skyscraper in the early 20th century was actually down on 23rd Street, and that's the Flatiron Building. It was once the tallest building in New York, the tallest in the world, and now it's only 22 stories. It's only 285 feet. And skyscrapers have to be a minimum of 492 to be elevated to that incredible status. You look at a roof and it's a barren space, but there are little tiny hidden roofs on prime buildings all over New York City. They're created by the 1916 building code law that forces tall buildings to have setbacks. Now, a setback is when a building's height and mass come together and force it to step in with little terraces so that light and air can flow to New York City streets.